I cannot tell you the last time we talked NBA. It might have been around when Paul George was traded from the Los Angeles Clippers to the Philadelphia 76ers when all those moves were being made early on in NBA free agency. NBA has sort of been hiatus here for the last 2 months. The season is starting up in a couple weeks. I gotta be honest with you, with my Cleveland Guardians now in the MLB playoffs, which we are going to have on Sean Fitzgerald next week. I call him our MLB expert. He is now with us at Voltage Live. We'll talk playoffs then. And obviously going into early next week as the MLB playoffs officially start on Saturday once these wild card games get over with. That starts obviously Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Um, but with the MLB playoffs going on, with everything going on in professional wrestling right now, with everything obviously going on in the NFL, we got big games in college football coming up. I'm watching other reality TV shows like Survivor season 40 several, which if you watch season 46, you'll understand that reference. As well as Fox's new game show, The Floor. I wrote both articles on those two shows for Voltage Live. You can go to voltagelive.com, check out those articles. So the point is, I haven't really been that into the NBA. I'm not that excited for this NBA season. I want to see if Victor Wembanyama can take the next step for San Antonio. I want to see what Anthony Edwards can do with Minnesota, which we'll get to. Can Oklahoma City in the West, a very young team, can they sort of take the next step? Obviously, can the Sixers stay healthy? Can Giannis in Milwaukee get back there? What's this Jalen Brunson Knicks situation going to look like? Can Boston repeat? How much will losing Al Horford affect them? So there's a lot of what ifs in the NBA. I've always said the NBA season to me should not start till Christmas. There's too many games. We're all focused on the NFL. Really, we start talking NBA on this show beginning in February. That's a long-winded answer to tell you that when I heard about this Karl-Anthony Towns news that kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest with you, everybody wants to rush and say, oh, who won the trade, right? Knicks or T-Wolves. And I look at this trade and I say the Knicks got Karl-Anthony Towns. He is now their second best player. Clearly, Julius Randle did not fit, and they had to get rid of DiVincenzo, which I think will be a big addition for Minnesota. Add another shooter to that T-Wolves team that just needed more shooting. They were very good on the defensive end. They needed more three-point range, which DiVincenzo can provide either in a starting role or off the bench. But from the perspective of both teams, Minnesota, I thought, with Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, now with the emergence of Anthony Edwards as their number one, they made the most out of that Twin Tower lineup, and I thought it worked because of the fact that Cat can stretch the floor. When you have Cat and Rudy Gobert both inside, obviously it's very hard to get scored in the paint on you. But I think Minnesota sort of made this decision when Nikola Jokic went 45 and whatever in game five. They got blown off the court. Um, Obviously, game seven, Anthony Edwards did not play that well. Rudy Gobert made a couple defensive plays, but I thought Cat was really the catalyst in that game seven for Minnesota to come back against Denver. And we've always known as a number one overall pick. Cat, I think, for a lot of years, reminded a lot of people of Kevin Love's tenure in Minnesota. Great player, would put up a lot of stats, though needs a number one to be a legitimate contender for the T-Wolves. But Cat can play, and when Cat can get on, obviously he's one of the best scorers in the league. I would have not made this move, but I get why Minnesota did it. And again, if you can get Cat out of the lane and this sort of becomes Anthony Edwards' team and you get more shooting around him, not saying that Julius Randle is not a bad player, though I think even more than Cat sometimes, Julius Randle can be a ball hog. I think Julius Randle is more of a low post player who needs his touches. He can't really create his own shot from deep. Cat is obviously a better shooter. But I think from the Minnesota perspective, they're saying, okay, this team is going to go for Anthony Edwards. We don't need to give Randall as many touches as Cat. Even though he plays a similar type game, maybe he's not the best shooter. We get DiVincenzo who can help us in our long range shooting. And the Knicks are saying, With Tom Thibodeau, obviously, as their coach, we're going to run guys like Josh Hart. We're going to run guys like Mitchell Robinson. Um, we're going to run these guys to the ground. And Jalen Brunson, who, came on the scene last year, was an MVP candidate, is a number one for the New York Knicks, is a likable number one for the New York Knicks. He needs a running mate. And a lot like Giannis and Dame, right? We all thought last year at this time the big trade was Dame going from Portland to Milwaukee. We said if Milwaukee stayed healthy, Giannis and Dame would be a great combination. Obviously, did not work out well. But I think the one thing about Cat that will help the Knicks is as good as Mitchell Robinson is, and obviously he's not a good free throw shooter, he's not a great shooter, but he is a great rim protector. Sort of like Rudy Gobert, but he's a more athletic Rudy Gobert, but he's not a great shooter. I would actually say Gobert maybe has a little bit more of an outside shot than Robinson, though it's certainly debatable. Cal will help stretch the floor, and I think that will also open up more opportunities for Jalen Brunson to go in the lane to drive. And I think when you take a look at the modern NBA, we even saw it with Boston. I would not say Jason Tatum's a superstar. I would not say Jaylen Brown is a superstar. I think they're both stars that need each other. You added that with the likes of Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. How many times we talk about Boston had 6, 7, 8 guys that can either defend and put the ball in the basket? And I think Denver's formula in 2023 was we have our superstar Nikola Jokic, we have our second star in Jamal Murray, whose game fit perfectly together. Let's put guys like KCP and Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon and those guys around those guys and have 6 or 7 role players that again can play defense, make shots, and our bench is just deeper than yours. I think the Knicks gave up a little bit in that in terms of losing Randall, losing DiVincenzo. Again, who knows with the Randall Brunson fit if they go as far as they do. It's a big splash for the Knicks. I don't know if it's going to work out because I think the Knicks are still probably the second best team in the East. I don't think Cat puts them over Boston, and I thought they were the second best team in the East before that. In saying that, again, I don't trust the health of Paul George, and I don't trust the health of Joel Embiid. But if those guys stay healthy for an entire season, and it's a big if in Philly, Philly has more talent than the Knicks. So there wasn't a lot of trades, in terms of draft picks in this trade. It was a pretty equal trade, in my opinion. I actually think, the Knicks, they got more talent with Cat. They're hoping that he can help lead Jalen Brunson. And for Minnesota, they're saying, we got Julius Randle, who may be a better fit than Cat and a little bit cheaper than Anthony Edwards, and we got more role players with Dante DiVincenzo. So I don't think anybody won this trade in particular, in my opinion. I think it's pretty even on both sides. But again, we'll see the impact of both those players as the season gets going here in a couple of weeks. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.